Okay, so I've started the recording, and I want to introduce myself. My name is Tracy Carmack, and I am a bacteriologist, a clinical nutritionist, and a traditional naturopath. So I like to educate my practitioners both from the side of a practitioner's view and what Microbiome Labs is trying to really do. They have disrupted the whole industry in the terms of probiotics. In that way, they've turned everything on its head because we have great research to show how probiotics are actually working, and it's not the way people thought. We've also disrupted the industry of stool testing, and we'll talk about that at the end as well. So we have put together a program called the Total Gut Restoration. And there's three primary components, and that is the reconditioning of the gut, reinforcing keystone strains, and rebuilding the mucin layers. So the first area in a normal gut is to help with the reconditioning. You'll see that this is in the mucin 1 layer. And this is primarily the job of what Megaspore will do. It helps with the diversity of the organisms. So a healthy gut will have, as represented here, many different colors of different bacteria. It will also have a functioning secretory IgA that is capable of detecting the lipopolysaccharide, which is indicated here as LPS. And in a healthy microbiome, it's going to be able to diffuse the LPS and basically dilute it, and that it will not be able to cause any problems in touching the epithelial cells or degrading the mucin 2. So it's able to handle any of the die-off or the lipopolysaccharide or any of the pathogenic exotoxins. The second area of a healthy microbiome is going to be plenty of these keystone strains, such as Akkermansia, Faecalibacterium, Bifidobacteria, those species that correlate with better health. And then the third area is to maintain this mucin 2 layer, which is a thick gelatinous coating that protects the underlying epithelial cells, protects the tight junctions, and keeps the area from being breached so that the underlying immune cells are basically just patrolling and they don't have to deal with any pathogens or breakthrough of the epithelial cells. So this is what should be maintained. Unfortunately, this is really what's going on with most of your patients. You see that they have a very poor diversity, they have very high LPS. This LPS is degrading the mucin 2 layer, which breaches the epithelial cells. The zonulin of the tight junctions opens up the gateway, and the lipopolysaccharide floods into the lumen of the cell. The immune cells are recognizing the LPS as toxic, and then it starts a whole immune cascade. The interleukins and the cytokinins are causing a inflammatory cascade, which is, at this point, is gut on fire. And this is causing a low-grade continuous inflammation that is feeding all chronic illness. So that's really it reinforces the importance of dealing with the gut to reduce that inflammation and help with autoimmune disease, which is really starting right at this point. Anytime the immune system is detecting food particles or lipopolysaccharide, then it's increasing the sensitivity to those food particles and causing autoimmune reactions to food or sensitivities to food, and then the autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's and MS, for instance. All of those are going to be worse because this is where it starts. So how do we fix this problem? How do we reinforce those important areas to keep this from happening? The first is really to understand what lipopolysaccharide does in the system. Lipopolysaccharide, that's a endotoxin, and we have seen that there's many reactions. We see that it increases leptin resistance, chronic constipation, mood and appetite disorders, depression, cognitive dysfunction, loss of memory, anorexia nervosa, and anxiety, chronic pain, Parkinson's, hypogonadism. So there's so many things that LPS can increase, including autoimmune disease. And it has very different symptoms as it manifests in different individuals as well. So anytime there's an issue with taking the products, almost all the time we come back to what is happening with the LPS. How is the LPS causing this? Is it causing this person to have constipation or diarrhea? Is it causing foggy thinking or hives to break out? So there's many different things that we really have to learn to look for in this type of die-off. So our first very important clinical trial was a publication that we had in the World Journal of Gastrointestinal Pathophysiology in August of 2017, and was done at the North Texas University by Dr. Brian McFarland. And the most important thing that it found was the reduction of the endotoxin, lipopolysaccharide. So it's shown to reduce lipopolysaccharide by 45%. And this was extremely important because it happened in 30 days and it was without any dietary or exercise changes. These were university students that kept on doing what university students do. It was just simply the addition of 2 Megaspore per day for 30 days. So that was the first, that lipopolysaccharide is associated with metabolic endotoxemia and that Megaspore reduced it by 45%. But that wasn't the only thing that was monitored in this study. They also looked at triglycerides, ghrelin, MCP1, the interleukins, glucose, insulin, and leptin. So in the first 30 days, these were the indicators that came into significance. And now each one of these other analytes are their own standalone clinical trial because they were very significant. The reduction of triglycerides is also an indicator of course, liver dysfunction, but also gut inflammation. It also reduced ghrelin, which is, the appetite hormone. So there's a current weight loss study that's being looked at. This is an indicator for autoimmune disease. So we've got a Hashimoto's and a rheumatoid arthritis study that's ongoing. And then these indicators here came into significance within 90 days. So we currently have a diabetes study, a lipid study, and additional inflammatory studies. So this was a groundbreaking study because of how significant, but primarily in that metabolic endotoxemia area, which again will help with any chronic illness because it all is mediated by underlying inflammation. Now, the way we study probiotics, this is what has really turned the industry on its head because there's so much misinformation about probiotics. A SHINE study, or it's a simulation of the human intestinal microbial ecosystem. This was developed in Belgium at Ghent University. It is the top of the line as far as how to study probiotics. And it basically is a synthetic intestinal tract. So each of these areas can be looked at. So we first looked at different probiotics to see how far in the intestinal tract they're actually able to get. And what we found is that 98% of all probiotics do not get past the stomach acid. But only the spores, because they're protected from stomach acids, pancreatic enzymes, and bile salts, they're able to get to the upper intestinal tract and begin to colonize. And they're able to produce different metabolites, both good ones to feed the good gut bacteria, as well as antibiotics that can target specific pathogens. And they do this because they have quorum sensing. Quorum sensing is a chemical surveillance system that let bacteria know where they are, what's in their environment, what other species are in their environment, and the specific strains of species, so that they can either create metabolites to feed them or B, antibiotics, sorry for the noise, antibiotics to target certain pathogens. And then we're able to see the rest of the digestive system and actually know what's going on. So this is, again, like I said, the state-of-the-art way. So if a probiotic company does not do Scheim studies, they have no idea how far along in the GI tract their probiotic is able to go, what it produces, the mechanism at which it functions. And this is why, you know, we've presented this information, and a lot of other probiotic companies are not happy with us, because we realize that such as lactobacillus and bifidus, which are the majority of probiotics that are out there, they die in the stomach. They do have limited function as metabolic responders, but they in no way can produce the amount of metabolites and functions that Megaspore can. So this is a recent publication on a Scheim study of one of our, well, showing the Megaspore and the prebiotic and how they symbiotically work together. So what it basically says is that Megaspore jumpstarts these very important processes. The production of short-chain fatty acids, increases the keystone strains of the bifidus and lactobacillus that are part of that fingerprint microbiome that our mothers gave us. And that's very important to realize too, that we don't add to a microbiome. After 835 days, the window of our microbiome has matured and it doesn't accept any more organisms. So all you can do at that point is you can add organisms that will stay at a transient time to do different functions and feed the good gut bacteria, but then those organisms move on. There is no new addition to a microbiome. So it's important to be able to help the microbiome keystone strains that are already there, such as, you know, the bifido, the lactobacillus, the Faecalibacterium, the Akkermansia that our mothers gave us. And that's what this study showed, that Megaspore jumpstarts them, gets the process going, and then the specific fibers in our prebiotic helps them to thrive. And it was very significant. They are increased by the prebiotic by 80%. And then the last step of the total gut restoration is the MegaMucosa builder here. And this is a very important product in that it has three major components: the concentrated immunoglobulins that help neutralize the lipopolysaccharide and modulate the immune system. It has amino acids that help the goblet cells to increase mucin production by 85%. And then citrus polyphenols that help squelch the oxidation that's happening during that inflammatory cascade. So we always start with Megaspore, and we start all of these products low and go slow because they're very strong, and we want to look for the different reactions people will have. So we start Megaspore 1 capsule every other day for a week, then 1 capsule every day for a week, and then by the 3rd day you're doing the 2 capsules, and you're always doing these with food because that's optimally when probiotics should be given. And then after that 3rd week, then you're beginning the Mega Prebiotic, just at a 1/4 to a 1/2 scoop. And you do that for a week, and then you can bump it up to the 1/2 to the 1 scoop that following week. And then this is progressive. So this is on top of the 2 Megaspores. And then by the 3rd month, you're giving the 1/4 to a 1/2 scoop of the MegaMucosa for the 1st week.
No. Can you tell her that I was writing it down? Can you hear me, Ms. Brittany?
Yes, I unmuted myself briefly just so that I could ask if you could repeat some of the instructions regarding the dosage of the Megaspore biotic and
Yes. Sure. Yeah, for the total gut restoration, we start Megaspore at 1 capsule every other day for a week, and then 1 capsule every day for a week. And then by the 3rd week, we're up to the recommended dose of 2, and we're always giving these during meals. So by the end of the 3rd week, then you can start adding the prebiotic at a partial scoop. The 1st week, a 1/4 to a 1/2 scoop.
The probiotic meals or
Wait, the spore biotic is taken with meals, yes. The prebiotic,
no, first let's finish the spore biotic. The spore biotic has to be taken with meals or without meals?
yes, she said that it's ideal to take probiotics with food. Is that correct, Tracy? Please.
Yes, the reason is because these spores have been in the human digestive tract since the dawn of man, and they got there by from the soil. So when we'd have vegetables and fruits and, so they were already part of, they came in with the
right.
vegetables and the fruit. So that's what's natural for them to be digested when we're consuming the food.
Okay, and so by the third week, you should be taking 2, not with every meal, but 2 in one day total.
Yes, and you can take them at the same time.
Okay.
And it's usually recommended to take at your largest meal. Then they have more opportunity with different types of, different variety of food.
Right. Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Can Tracy hear me at all?
Yes, I unmuted me, so I do think.
Yes, I can hear her.
Through my phone.
Yes.
Tracy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Tracy. So after I have gone up on the dose of Megaspore biotic to 2 capsules daily, when do I start the prebiotic?
Yes, once you've confirmed that the person has no die-off and they're comfortable with the 2 capsules, you can start the MegaPre. You might want to, do the 2 capsules for a full week, and then start the MegaPrebiotic at a partial scoop.
Okay. Also with meals, or would it be taken before meals?
Yeah, once you've confirmed the prebiotic, again, has no die-off, it
Right.
doesn't really matter with the prebiotic and the MegaMucosa when they're taken. But once you've confirmed that you've tested it one at a time, some people will actually add the 2 together and then just sip on it because they're powders, and they just put it in water and they sip on it through the day. So, there's some options as to how to administer the powders.
Okay.
So by the 3rd month, you've got them on all 3 of the products. The end of the 3rd month, the powder should run out. Then you just
on this
Megaspore 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
So for most people that have had, minor discomfort with GI problems, the 3 months is going to take care of it. For real severe gastrointestinal problems, to give good expectations of how long they should be on the products, generally every year that they've had serious side effects or serious symptoms, they should count on 1 month of healing. So if they've had Crohn's or ulcerative colitis for 6 years, then you should tell them it'll take about 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's
the Mega Prebiotic should be started in the 4th week, right?
correct.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, if they have,
And then start with partial scoop with food for the 1st week.
It doesn't have to be taken necessarily with food.
right, the powders.
Not bad, I missed that.
No, you got the dosing right. As I do.
Half a scoop?
You're right.
At half a scoop for 1 week, and then Divya, can you write it down, please?
Yes.
Are you making notes?
Yes, and in my email, in the signature section, I have a link for the Total Gut Restoration booklet, the TGR booklet, and that is the protocol. So it's written down for you.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And if there's any, for instance, if there's any GI symptoms at all, like gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, cramps, anything, you just go slower, and that will typically, mitigate any of those problems.
Okay.
And this is always where we start. We start with Megaspore because it tells you a lot about how much gut, how much dysbiosis and how much gut damage. Because if there's any symptoms, then that's an indication that they need to go slower and that there's a lot more damage.
Okay.
So the probiotic, I don't know if Tracy can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she can.
So Tracy, what is the difference in the dose between children and adults?
Oh, there was some feedback there. What's the difference between what?
A dosage for a child and an adult.
Okay, we typically dose by weight. So you can open up the capsule, and for most children, a half a capsule, for, even infants, just a pinch of the powder, directly into the infant's mouth or on the mother's teat to be suckled off is real common. So, and same with animals. You just dose by weight. Typically, a half a capsule is fine for most.
Dose by weight, okay.
So this study shows just one of our spores. So Megaspore has 5 spores in it, but we have a probiotic, HU58, that has just 1 spore, and we have another probiotic called Restore Flora that has 2 spores. And there's several different things you can do with these single probiotics as well. So this shows a clinical trial of just that 1 spore, and it shows how effective it is against interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha. So it's very helpful with reducing inflammation, just 1 spore by itself, as well as it reduces ammonia. Cleveland Clinic has a hepatic encephalopathy ward, and they use this particular product exclusively because of its ability to reduce ammonia and inflammation. So for some individuals, there's about 10 to 15% of individuals that are very sensitive. They have a very damaged immune system, and they may not be able to do Megaspore. So you can try breaking the capsule and just going real slow, but you may need to start with just 1 spore, work them up to the 2 spore, and then eventually work them up to the 5 spore. That's just indicating that their immune system is damaged and they're having difficulty recognizing, and they're having a lot of gut issues with the lipopolysaccharide. So just know you've got some options to work them up slowly. The other reason you would use this HU58 and Restore Flora for serious conditions of overgrowth, such as C. diff or MRSA, or you've got someone who is critical and you need to basically put all 3 of these probiotics together to competitively exclude the pathogen and really just shut down everything, all of the endotoxins very quickly, because they are either in the hospital or on the way. So that's another use that you can use these for. And this shows the SHIME study here that another publication.
Ma, sorry, I just unmuted it now, but
no, please put it on so Tracy can hear me.
Yes.
So Tracy, this product is a different product that the high potency one, HU58, for patients who have C. diff and everything, right?
It is the same Bacillus subtilis that is in Megaspore, but it's just by itself, and it's it has great use by itself for those that cannot tolerate all 5 spores at the same time. Since it's at a higher dose, you can add it to Megaspore to help competitively exclude pathogens that are overgrowing.
So, but for most patients, shouldn't we start with the Megaspore biotic, or when will you start with this one? I didn't understand.
Yes, 80% of individuals have no problem with the Megaspore. It's just those hypersensitive individuals that you want to know that there's an option to start them slower.
So those individuals whose gut is not doing very well and they can't tolerate the Megaspore biotic, this option is for those very sensitive patients, right?
Correct.
So, okay, start those sensitive patients with HU58. This is only 1 strain, and how many, what is the count, 80 billion, 90 billion, what is the count of this HU58?
It has 5 billion, but remember, this is a real different paradigm now. What we've been used to seeing in 400 billion, so forth, we were assuming that all 400 billion was colonizing, we're getting to the small intestine, but now we know that's not true. 0 of those particular probiotics were actually getting to the intestine, whereas with these spores, we know that 100% of them are getting and are colonizing. So say for like VSL, you know, if 400 billion, but actually 0 were colonizing, we know that, you know, the 4 or 5 billion that Megaspore or HU58 is delivering, 100% of them are colonizing.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Divya? So how do you dose this HU58?
How do we dose it?
The dosing is with 1 capsule a day, and or how do you start dosing this?
Yes, I always start with, you know, 1 and check. So 1 every other day just to see how they do, then 1 a day. Once they're doing 1 a day of the HU58, they can ramp it up to, I would have them do it for a couple of weeks, and then they can progress or graduate to the Restore Flora, which is the 2 spores. Same thing, they would start slow, and then once they can do 1 every day, they could graduate to the Megaspore.
Is this bacteria Bacillus subtilis normally a part of the human microbiome, or normally it's not a part of the human microbiome?
They have normally been a part of the microbiome as transient organisms. When people would eat from the garden, it was a very natural spore that used the soil as a vector, would, you know, help, would be ingested, would do what it does. It helps train our immune system. It helps modulate our gut, and then it would pass through in the feces and back into the soil. And this has been going on since the dawn of man. What has changed is that we have sterilized our soil, and these spores are not, they have no exposure to our intestines anymore. The studies have shown that infants that aren't exposed to these bacillus spores do not develop their immune system properly.
I see.
And also,
Worse, I was reading online that these probiotics that your company makes causes sometimes abdominal pain, diarrhea, and side effects too, right?
what we find that, yes, that's the lipopolysaccharide. So when that's happening, we know that the gram-negative bacteria in our gut release lipopolysaccharide, and if it's released too quickly, it's going to have side effects. So what to do in that case is just to cut the dose in half. You know, by going slower, it gives your body time. Now there's also, here, I'm good. Sorry, I had to stop my phone. There's also a product we have, the IgG 2000, which is concentrated immunoglobulins that help neutralize lipopolysaccharide. And that product is available by itself, or it's also in powder form in the MegaMucosa product. So there are some things you can do, you know, of course, tell them to drink more water, go slower with the spores, or add some of this immunoglobulin to help with that lipopolysaccharide. But the main thing is that they need to understand that it's not the spores causing a problem, it's a reaction of the problem that's already existing, that they need to keep doing the spores, just go slower, because eventually these spores will have many positive effects on their gut.
Okay. So these spores are different from putting probiotics, right? And they are shelf stable. You don't need to refrigerate them, right?
Exactly. Spores are very stable. You don't have to refrigerate them. They have very long expirations. You know, in fact, they have found these particular spores in archaeological digs and they're thousands of years old, and they still can germinate. So they're very resistant. And that's good, because they need to resist the very low stomach acid, the pancreatic enzymes, and the bile salts.
Okay, so you need to take the prebiotics along with it to make them grow or to give them a good environment. What about patients who have candida? You know, does your company recommend using your candida product first, called MegaMycoBalance, and kill the candida? Because I have a lot of female patients who present with candida. So in those patients, do I need to use MegaMycoBalance, say, for a month? And can you talk to me a little bit more about it, and then do the spore treatment, or simultaneously at the same time? What do you suggest?
Yes, it can be done either way. Many times, you know, individuals may not know they have a candida, and when you start the total gut restoration, it can stir up this candida because pathogens, even though they will cause a homeostasis, and the individual may not realize that the candida is there. So it'll start rearing its ugly head and manifesting, and then you can add the MegaMycoBalance to the already existing total gut restoration. But if you already know they have a candida issue, then of course you can knock it down with the MegaMycoBalance and then do the total gut restoration following, because the whole idea that they had the candida in the first place means that the terrain, that the environment was conducive for the pathogen to move in. So we know that there is not a healthy environment, or the candida wouldn't have been there in the first place.
Okay, so if the MegaMycoBalance to kill candida, how long do you recommend doing that for before starting the gut restore? For a month will be enough, and then start the gut restore, or?
Yeah, if they're able, and again, the MegaMycoBalance is also very strong. What I have found with women, especially if they've had candida infections in the past, they need to start this product very slow. So the recommendation is 2 gel caps 3 times a day. Start with 1 gel cap the first day, 2 the second, 3 the third, and go very slowly, because the candida, when it's dying off too quickly, can make a woman very angry or very emotional, and neither which are good. So just know that it's very effective, so start slow. And I'm going to cover that in a slide a little later to show you.
MegaMycoBalance is in the form of gel caps. Will the body be able to break the gel cap in these patients? Does it have gelatin, or what is the gel cap made of?
Tapioca.
Hello?
Yes, the gel cap is made of tapioca, and it breaks down very easily.
Okay, and now, so some doctors also use diflucan and nystatin along, to kill the candida in the first month. If a patient is on that protocol, then is it okay to introduce MegaMycoBalance at the same time along with it?
If the doctor's already prescribed it, what we like is the MegaMycoBalance, just because it helps with, it stops the hypha production of the candida. So diflucan can be very aggressive. It can have some side effects. So if there's a chance of using the MegaMycoBalance instead, and then maybe you don't have to use the diflucan.
Okay.
But if the person's already on it,
do you have any studies comparing diflucan and nystatin versus your product? Do you have any studies done to show how your product works versus diflucan and nystatin, which is the conventional treatment?
Yeah, I will look. Our scientific medical director has described a comparison. I'm not sure if there's studies behind it, but I'll ask in our forum to see if we can give you a better description of how that works.
If a patient has candida, I just feel that if I'm holding on the spore and the gut balancing treatment, I'm holding on to the healing for a month. If I start both together, does it have any side effects? Like if I give, the MegaMycoBalance to kill the fungus, and what if I give the gut restoration thing at the same time with that? It's not recommended, or is it okay to do that?
You can. The only thing, just watch to see if they get exotoxin die off from the candida and lipopolysaccharide die off. If they're getting overwhelmed, you might have to choose one or the other, just so they will be compliant and stick with one.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see. Okay, one more thing. Your immunoglobulins, what is the source of them? Are they bovine, or where do they come from, the immunoglobulins?
Yes, they come from bovine serum.
Okay, and that serum, has it been tested? Like there is no bovine TB or anything? Because some of my patients have very low immune system.
Yes, it's very well tolerated, very well tested. The only people that cannot do it are if they have a beef allergy.
If they have a beef allergy, then they can't. Okay. Okay, so the slide that's talking about the SHINE study, can we move on to the next slide and see what other slides I have because our patients, can we see the next one?
Sure, yeah, and this study was just showing how effective Megaspore is. It's more effective than the rifaximin for IBS. This is the two spore. It also has Saccharomyces boulardii. It's great for if you've got someone who's had antibiotics and you don't.
Well, I have a question. This Saccharomyces boulardii, now that's a fungus, right? And this
that's a yeast.
Is introducing a fungus back, right?
Well, it's a yeast.
A healthy fungus. It's a very controversial thing to use it or not.
She's saying it is a yeast.
Yeah, and it's been shown to be very helpful, yeast against yeast. So using a yeast to fight candida is very helpful.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why it's recommended, if you don't know how someone's going to respond to Megaspore and you don't have the time to titrate them up, you can use the Restore Flora, which just has 2 of the spores that's tolerated well, Saccharomyces boulardii, so that they won't get candida because they've been on an antibiotic.
Now, this Restore Flora, so you are recommending this instead of the spore biotic because this is easier to tolerate?
Just when you don't have the time to titrate them up. Say, they've come to you and they're taking an antibiotic. They can take this right along with their antibiotic because the spores protect themselves and it won't be killed by the antibiotic. And then it's already there in their intestinal tract that when they stop the course of antibiotics, then it can begin cleaning up, the damage that's been done.
So if a patient is on diflucan, is it still okay to give them this, or we should wait to finish the diflucan?
No, it's fine to give them this. It won't be harmed.
Okay, ma'am. Next slide.
Okay, now this is the MegaMycoBalance. So we're showing you here, it's saying this 2 soft gels 2 to 3 times a day. But again, start slow with this. If they're already on the total gut restoration, you can just add this. If it's too much for them, then just wait on the total gut restoration. This shouldn't really be taken more than 3 months. It should do the job. It has the undecalinic acid in it, and this diagram here shows undecalinic acid stops the hypha attachment. Hypha is kind of like roots that damage the epithelial cells and damage the tight junctions. So once you've stopped it from producing this, then it just passes through the system. And you can see it's a very effective antifungal. And there's some studies showing.
Does it cause diarrhea or bloating?
It can. I've found with individuals, there's no way to predict how they're going to react with any of these gut products. So we just tell them anything can happen. The course of action is to just go slower, let their body adjust and get used to it, drink more water, to try to flush and or take that IgG 2000 to help with the toxins.
Okay, can we go to the next one?
Mm-hmm. This is MegaGuard. It's for upper digestive like GERD, H. pylori, bile flow issues. It's been very helpful.
Okay. Can we go? Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Wheat Rescue has the enzymes to digest the wheat protein so that it's not immunoreactive. And we have some of our spores in there. So this is a good, diet control and maintenance. We have a vitamin K2, which vitamin K2 is fermented in the gut, but most people are deficient. This is the mechanism that you have to have vitamin K2 in order to ionize calcium from the soft tissue and back into the bones. So this product's been very successful in mobilizing calcium to reduce blood pressures, to dissolve kidney stones, to dissolve gallbladder stones, and plaquing in the brain, because all of that is calcium where it shouldn't be. So we have 2, megaquinone, vitamin K2, and MyoMax. And again, very helpful in calcium deposition issues.
Okay, can we go to the next one? Okay, this one I would like to skip for now. Oh, can we go to the last slide, the one before that? Was it a comparison of the 3? It's just that I have patience. I'm sorry if I seem to be rushing you. Okay, so this is megaquinone versus MycoMax.
Right.
Okay, great. Now, let me see what other slides are there.
Yeah, and this is our stool test. We've just launched it. It's a whole genomic sequencing test. So if you're doing stool tests, this is the one that the Human Microbiome Project used. So it's the top of the line.
Do you send any samples to physicians too? Like sometimes other Genova and all have given me one sample kit to do on one test patient.
No, they don't. They're not set up that way. They send you 4 kits as a bundle, and then you're charged when the patient actually sends in the sample.
Okay, how much does each test cost per patient?
$299.
And what do you have a copy of a sample report? What it'll show me?
Yes, I can email that to you.
Yes, just because I use the Genova one and I want to see how is this different, or is it better, or does it have more information on Candida or fungus, or does it just see the diversity, or what is it generally?
Yeah, so it does the alpha and beta diversity. So it's going to show you, the kind of the intrastate, is this person fall within the range of a normal microbiome, and then it shows within a normal microbiome in their geographic region. It gives you a complete list of what pathogens are detected, what antibiotic resistance pathogens are detected, ammonia levels, sulfate levels, methane levels. So it gives you kind of the personality of the microbiome. And it's down to the strain level.
How to take them? Do you have them in writing that you can email it to me? Like
Yes.
For spore biotic, the prebiotic, and all of them. Your products are very good, but if you could send me like an email with the dosing instructions, do you have anything like that?
Yes. And when I send an email, down in my signature, there's this link here. It says TGR booklet. That's the protocol. There's an order form, so you can see the wholesale costs versus the retail costs, and some of the studies as well. And there'll also be a link to, it's called, on Google Drive, it'll put you into a folder for each one of the products that has all of the research for each of the products.
Okay, that'll be great. If I order your products, like how long does it take to reach them? I mean, how are you located? Where is your company located out of?
We're shipping out of Arizona, and in your area, it'll take 7 to 10 days.
7 to 10 days. Okay, I see. Okay, so I will take a look at the order form. Right now, I think you already set up my account, right? So I can go ahead and order it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So once you go in and place your order.
Divya, the one that you were saying, the dosing instructions and the booklet, let me see if I can open my email and see that. Give me one second.
The TGR booklet. Okay.
Did you see the booklet in the email? Can you click on it and let's see if it appears?
I unfortunately did not receive that email.
Now let me shoot you another one real quick.
I think that was only sent to.
Okay, so is this email?
Yes,
right?
my email. Yes.
Okay.
Can you CC it? Okay, that email.
Actually, let me in the chat send my email address real quick.
Okay, super, and I'll add that to here.
Okay. It's so nice of you to call right away, and I really appreciate it. I just opened the account and you give us a lot of good information. But the only thing is that the probiotics or the bacteria, these are not found in the regular probiotics, any of these spore-based probiotics that you are doing. All the probiotic preparations in the market, they don't have these bacteria at all. It's the first time I'm looking at these names, right? Because these are soil-based bacteria, right?
Well, they're not soil-based. They use the soil as a vector. So they're in the spore form in the soil, and then they, once they're eaten by the humans. But know that each one of these spores individually are pharmaceutical drugs in Europe and Southeast Asia and have been for 60 years. So we're not the first to use them. We're the first to bring them to the US. And there's, yeah, so it really should have been introduced years before now.
But lactobacilli and the normal good bacteria, none of your probiotics have them, right?
No, because they die in the stomach. The lactobacillus we have in our gut were given to us by our mothers, and we can't add to it. So all we can do is feed them so that they flourish.
Okay, okay. All right, I think that's very helpful, Tracy. If I have any questions, I'll keep your number.